The strange signals came on an ordinary Tuesday. Dr. Alan Foster stared at his computer screen, blinking in disbelief. The pattern was unlike anything NASA had ever recorded before. It wasn't random cosmic noise. It had structure, rhythm, intent. "Olivia, come look at this," he called to his assistant. Olivia Pierce hurried over, her coffee forgotten on her desk. She leaned over his shoulder, eyes widening as she watched the signal repeat. "That's not natural," she whispered. "No," Alan agreed. "It's not." Within hours, every major observatory on Earth had confirmed the signal. It originated from just beyond Jupiter's orbit and was getting stronger. Something was approaching Earth. For 3 days, the world held its breath. Religious leaders called for prayer. Governments convened emergency sessions. Children looked up at the night sky with wonder and fear. On the 4th day, they arrived. The ships appeared suddenly, materializing in Earth's orbit like dark jewels against the blue planet. They were enormous. The smallest dwarfed the International Space Station. Their hulls gleamed with an iridescent material that seemed to shift colors depending on the angle of the sunlight. Worldwide communications received the same message simultaneously, translated into every human language. "People of Earth, we come in peace as representatives of the Galactic Council. We wish to establish diplomatic relations." The first landing occurred on the grounds of the United Nations. World leaders gathered as a sleek vessel descended from the clouds, touching down with barely a whisper. When the door opened, humans got their first glimpse of alien life. They called themselves the Exorelians, tall, elegant beings with silvery skin and large, expressive eyes. Behind them came other species, the reptilian Draz, the gaseous Vril contained in hovering suits, and several others too strange to categorize easily. "We have observed your world for some time," announced the Exorelian ambassador, Kelthan. "Your species has progressed remarkably. The Council would like to welcome you into our galactic community." Celebrations erupted worldwide. Humanity was not alone in the universe. The visitors brought gifts. Medical technology that cured several diseases overnight, energy systems that produced clean power, and agricultural techniques that promised to end hunger. But not everyone was convinced. Greg Bennett, a security analyst at the Pentagon, noticed something odd about the visitors' scanning devices. They seemed particularly focused on mapping Earth's military installations. When he mentioned this to his superiors, they dismissed his concerns. "Don't be paranoid, Bennett. This is the greatest moment in human history." Meanwhile, Dr. Lili Zhao at MIT examined the alien technology and found components that seemed designed to monitor human communications. Her research was politely but firmly redirected by her new Exorelian colleagues. At a diplomatic reception, Captain Karen Rodriguez of the Air Force overheard 2 Draz delegates speaking through their translators. "How long before classification?" one asked. "Standard protocol. 6 months observation, then the protection status will be implemented," the other replied. "And the resources? Harvestable without significant impact to the protected zone." Karen pretended not to hear, but later reported the conversation to her commanding officer. He thanked her, promised to pass it up the chain, and was never heard from again. As weeks passed, more ships arrived. The Council established an orbital station and invited human representatives to tour it. News channels showed smiling astronauts floating alongside their alien counterparts. Earth was changing. New technologies were integrated into daily life. Council advisors joined government agencies worldwide. Children played with holographic toys featuring friendly alien characters. But beneath the celebration, questions remained unanswered. What did the Council really want? Why had they chosen Earth now? And why did they scan the planet so thoroughly while sharing so little about themselves? The answers would come soon enough, and they would change humanity forever. 6 months after first contact, Earth officially joined the Galactic Council. The ceremony took place on the orbital station, now a permanent fixture above Earth. World leaders gathered in the Grand Hall. surrounded by representatives from 27 alien civilizations. The human delegation wore specially designed suits to match the formal occasion. They smiled for the cameras as they signed the Treaty of Inclusion. Back on Earth, people watched on screens in homes, schools, and public squares. Children waved small flags showing Earth alongside alien worlds. But not everyone celebrated. Captain John Murphy worked in document processing on the station. His job was to translate human records into the Council's standard format. One night, while the station was quiet, he accessed a secure terminal to retrieve files for his assignment. A notification flashed on his screen. Access granted to restricted Council archives. A system error had temporarily lifted security protocols. John hesitated only a moment before searching the database. What he found made his blood run cold. Earth was classified as a Level 3 protected species. Humans were considered primitive, despite their technology. The treaty they had just signed didn't make them equals, it made them wards. The documents detailed plans for quarantine, resource extraction, and specimen collection. Humans would be studied, their planet harvested, and their civilization directed along Council-approved paths. John downloaded everything he could before security resumed. He transmitted the files to a secure server on Earth, then deleted all evidence of his actions. 3 days later, John disappeared from the station. Official reports said he had been transferred. His family received no word. On Earth, the files reached Major Kate Russell. She reviewed them in a secure underground facility with a small team of military and intelligence officers. "This confirms our suspicions," she said grimly. "They're not here as friends." "Why the charade?" asked Colonel Frank Wilson. "With their technology, they could simply take what they want." "Council policy," Kate explained, showing him a relevant document. "They prefer assimilation to conquest. Less resistance that way." "Well, they miscalculated," Frank said. Kate nodded. "Assemble the team. We need to prepare before they move to the next phase." Across the globe, strange incidents multiplied. Fishing boats reported massive underwater craft near resource-rich ocean zones. Miners discovered their sites had been scanned at night by unidentified devices. Farmers found crops mysteriously analyzed. The Council expanded its presence. More advisors joined governments. More technology was integrated into Earth systems, always with smiles and assurances of friendship. Then came the disappearances. First, a renowned physicist vanished from her home. Then a military strategist. Then a genetic researcher. Each time, authorities found no evidence of struggle. Family members received messages saying their loved ones had accepted special positions with the Council. The messages were always the same, word for word. In a hidden facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Kate Russell met with scientists, soldiers, and hackers from a dozen countries. They called themselves the Terran Defense Initiative. "We have 3 weeks," she told them. According to the documents, that's when full quarantine begins. "What exactly does quarantine mean?" asked a British intelligence officer. "Isolation field around the planet. No signals in or out. Council ships control all space travel. Earth becomes a closed system, or as we would call it, a prison." The room fell silent. "They're already detaining our people on the station," reported Lisa Chen, who had a sister working as a translator there. "Communications have been restricted. Official reason is security protocols." "Then we're out of time," Kate said. "Activate all cells. Implement Operation Blackout." That night, as Council representatives attended a gala at the United Nations, teams around the world moved into position. The resistance was about to show the Galactic Council that humans would not be classified, contained, or controlled. The time for politeness had ended. The time for fighting back had begun. The quarantine happened overnight. People woke to find massive ships positioned in Earth's orbit, their hulls gleaming in the morning sunlight. The vessels were arranged in a precise pattern, creating what the Council called a protective barrier. All independent satellite communications went dead. Internet connections still worked, but anything trying to transmit beyond Earth's atmosphere failed. Commercial flights were grounded worldwide. Space agencies found their systems locked out. At noon, worldwide broadcasts carried the Council's announcement. For your safety and development, Earth is now under the full protection of the Galactic Council, said Ambassador Kelthan, his silver face serene. This standard procedure enables proper integration of developing worlds. The protective barrier will remain until humans reach appropriate advancement levels. What the announcement didn't mention were the mining ships already landing on the Moon and Mars. Within hours, massive excavators began extracting resources from Earth's celestial neighbors. When questioned, Council representatives explained this was part of the development package. On Earth, protests erupted in major cities. In New York, thousands gathered outside the Council's headquarters, waving signs and demanding answers. Similar scenes played out in London, Tokyo, and Beijing. The Council's response was not violent but disturbingly effective. Devices mounted on their buildings emitted a field that made protesters lose focus and wander away, forgetting why they had gathered in the first place. In a bunker beneath Seattle, Eric Daniels watched footage of the protests dispersing. The former Special Forces commander shook his head. Some kind of memory manipulation technology, he told his team. This confirms what our Council defector told us. The defector was a junior Xorelian named Vexil who had secretly opposed the quarantine. He had provided the Resistance with crucial information before disappearing. The Council has done this to 17 other worlds, Eric explained. They're harvested for resources while the native species is studied and controlled. Some civilizations have been quarantined for centuries. But why? Asked Nathan Kim, a former FBI agent. Why not just conquer openly? The Council doesn't see it as conquest, replied Dr. Lisa Garcia, one of Earth's leading physicists. They genuinely believe they're helping us, like putting animals in a zoo for their own protection. Lisa and her colleague Paul Wright had been analyzing Council technology since first contact. Their lab, hidden in an abandoned mine shaft, contained several alien devices they had managed to acquire. We've made progress understanding their shield technology, Paul said, pulling up schematics on a screen. Their quarantine barrier works on similar principles. Have you found a way through it? Eric asked. Not yet, Lisa admitted, but we've identified a potential weakness in how it modulates to allow their own ships to pass. Outside the Resistance bunkers, life continued under increasing Council influence. Schools adopted new, approved curriculum. Hospitals installed alien medical technology that worked miracles, but also collected detailed biological data on patients. The most disturbing development was the relocation program. Each week, thousands of humans were selected for special educational opportunities off-world. They departed on Council ships with cheerful smiles, sending upbeat messages to their families about their experiences. But the messages were always strangely similar, lacking personal details, and no one ever returned. In Singapore, Resistance member Dr. Sophia Wong examined brain scans of individuals before and after Council educational assessments. There are clear signs of neural tampering, she reported to her cell. They're altering brain chemistry, particularly in regions associated with aggression and independence. Not all Council species supported these measures. The Resistance had established contact with several Vril individuals who questioned the ethics of Earth's quarantine. Through these connections, they learned the Council was divided on the human problem. Some advocated for stricter controls, arguing that humans were unusually resistant to pacification. Others suggested Earth might eventually qualify for limited self-governance if compliance improved. Neither option was acceptable to the Resistance. As Council control tightened, underground networks expanded. Humanity would not surrender without a fight, even against the stars themselves. 3 months into the quarantine, the Council discovered something unexpected. Humans were adapting to their control measures. The memory-altering fields that once dispersed protests now seemed less effective. People built simple devices that shielded their minds from the influence. Nobody knew who had invented these devices, but they spread rapidly through underground networks. In council meeting chambers, frustration mounted. "How are they doing this?" demanded Draz Commander Skith, his scaled face flushing a deep orange. "The neural influencers work on all level 3 species. Humans show unusual neurological resilience," replied Dr. Neal, the council's chief xenobiologist. "Their brains form new pathways to resist repeated manipulation." While the council debated, humans were busy beneath the surface. At an abandoned missile silo in North Dakota, the Terran Defense Initiative had established its main research center. Scientists who had escaped relocation worked alongside military strategists, forming Earth's hidden resistance. Dr. Lisa Garcia held up a small device, barely larger than a coin. "This is what we've been working toward," she announced to the gathered leaders. "It can disrupt the Council's shield frequency for approximately 8 seconds. Eric Daniels stepped forward. "How many do we have?" 57, Paul Wright answered. "We can make more, but we need specific minerals, which are under Council control," Eric concluded. Major Ryan Butler, a former pilot, raised his hand. "I have an idea about that." Meanwhile, in Atlanta, a Council medical facility received unexpected test results. Humans subjected to telepathic compliance procedures were developing immunity at accelerating rates. What worked on the first attempt failed on the second or third. The facility director immediately classified these findings. If the Council hardliners learned about this resistance, they might recommend more severe measures. Not all aliens supported the quarantine. A Vril scientist named Mist of Dawn secretly passed information to human contacts. Through this alliance, the Resistance learned of a critical Council weakness. Their ship's shield generators cannot adapt to rapidly changing frequencies, explained former astronaut Maria Collins to the TDI leadership. They rely on predictable patterns because they've never needed anything else. Maria had been training for months, preparing for the most dangerous mission yet. Using a modified supply shuttle and Council identification codes provided by sympathetic aliens, she would infiltrate a research vessel harvesting materials near Jupiter. "If I can access their systems," she said, "we can download their complete shield specifications." The mission was approved. 3 days later, Maria departed in a shuttle disguised as a Council maintenance craft. The Resistance held its breath. While Maria headed to Jupiter, Council representatives noticed another puzzling development. Humans were showing strong resistance to Draz dominance displays that normally paralyzed lesser species with fear. Similarly, Xorelian empathic manipulation techniques that worked universally were failing with increasing frequency. In a secure chamber beneath Geneva, the Council's Earth Oversight Committee met to discuss the problem. "We may need to reclassify humans," suggested Ambassador Kelthan. "Their adaptability exceeds level 3 parameters." "Impossible," countered General Vrax. "Reclassification would require offering planetary representation. The resources here are too valuable to share with natives." "Then what do you suggest?" asked Kelthan. "Accelerated harvesting and increased specimen collection. If they're developing resistance, we should gather all necessary data before implementing stronger containment." The vote was taken. Accelerated harvesting would begin immediately. They didn't know that hidden microphones had captured every word, transmitted through pathways undetectable by Council scanners. The Resistance now had confirmation of the Council's true intentions. When Maria Collins returned from her mission a week later, she brought something invaluable: complete schematics of Council shield technology and internal communication systems. For the first time since the quarantine began, humanity had a fighting chance. The Council had miscalculated. They thought they were studying humans. They didn't realize humans were studying them right back. And the hidden strength of Earth was about to reveal itself. The plan came together in 3 weeks. Across the globe, Resistance cells prepared for coordinated action. Weapons were modified with alien technology. Pilots trained on simulators designed to mimic Council ships. Every detail was planned with military precision. The Council noticed nothing unusual. Their sensors detected no large gatherings, no unusual movement of materials. The humans seemed to be accepting their place in the galactic order. On a Monday morning, everything changed. At exactly 3:00 a.m. UTC, resistance forces struck simultaneously at 27 Council monitoring stations around the world. The attacks came not with large forces, but with small teams using precisely targeted weapons. In Nevada, 4 soldiers approached a Council outpost. They activated the shield disruptors Lisa Garcia had created. The alien barrier flickered and failed for exactly 8 seconds, just long enough for them to slip through. Within minutes, they had neutralized the security systems and taken control. Similar scenes played out across the planet. Council personnel found themselves facing humans who knew exactly how to disable their technology. The resistance didn't kill when they could avoid it. Captives were secured and contained. By dawn, 17 monitoring stations had fallen. The Council, for the first time, looked vulnerable. Commander Sam Reeves led the most daring mission. His target was the main Council orbital station, the heart of the quarantine operation. His team of 8 launched from a hidden facility in a modified spacecraft that appeared to Council sensors as one of their own supply vessels. Approaching outer barrier, reported his pilot, Andrea Wells. Deploying countermeasures. The ship transmitted falsified clearance codes while simultaneously broadcasting the shield-disrupting frequencies. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then the barrier parted like a curtain. "We're through," Andrea whispered. Aboard the orbital station, alarms blared. Council security forces rushed to defensive positions. They had never faced a serious threat on this installation. Sam's team docked at a maintenance port. Using breaching tactics practiced for months, they entered the station and moved toward the central control hub. The few Council guards they encountered seemed shocked by the human attack. Their weapons were set to stun. They had never considered that lethal force might be necessary against a protected species. Back on Earth, the Council was losing control. Reports flooded in from their remaining outposts. Humans using advanced tactics and modified Council technology were overwhelming their defenses. "This is impossible," General Vrax snarled. "They can't have developed countermeasures so quickly." "You underestimated them," said Ambassador Kelvan. "As I warned you might." In space, more ships appeared. Hidden in asteroid fields and behind moons, resistance vessels emerged. Some were Earthcraft modified with alien technology. Others were Council ships captured in the initial attacks or provided by alien sympathizers. On the orbital station, Sam's team reached the central control hub. The final door was heavily secured. They placed breaching charges and took cover. "Remember," Sam told his team, "we want the station intact. We need those controls." The door blew open. They rushed in, stunning the unprepared Council technicians. Within minutes, Sam stood at the main control console. "Station secured," he reported through the Resistance communication network. "Beginning barrier shutdown." The massive quarantine shield that had imprisoned Earth began to flicker. Section by section, it failed. For the first time in months, Earth had a clear path to space. Council ships rushed to respond, but they faced an enemy they were not prepared for. Human vessels, nimble and unpredictable, outmaneuvered their larger craft. The Council had always relied on technological superiority, never expecting to face their own weapons turned against them. By nightfall, the quarantine was broken. Council forces retreated to regroup, shocked by the ferocity and effectiveness of the human counterattack. Most important of all, 7 Council vessels had been captured intact. Their faster-than-light engines would give humanity the ability to reach other stars and other worlds under Council control. The message went out on all frequencies, broadcast in the Council's own language. Earth is free. This is only the beginning. News of Earth's rebellion spread through the galaxy at light speed. Council communications, once secure, had been hacked and broadcast openly. Every subjugated world, every protected species, learned what the humans had accomplished. In the Grand Council chamber on Sorelia Prime, emergency sessions ran for days without break. Representatives argued bitterly over how to respond. The chamber, usually a model of decorum, echoed with raised voices and accusations. "This is unprecedented," shouted Delegate Vrux of the Draz Confederation. "No Level 3 species has ever broken quarantine. The humans must be immediately contained before others get ideas." "With what forces?" countered Ambassador Helthan, who had warned about underestimating humans. "They've captured 7 of our vessels with hyperspace capability. They're already beyond our reach." The debate raged while human ships pushed farther into space. Using captured Council navigation systems, they'd reached out to other quarantined worlds. The message was simple: freedom is possible. On the desert planet Vexor, native inhabitants had lived under Council protection for 3 centuries. When a human ship appeared in their skies, their leaders were suspicious. "Why should we trust you?" asked Elder Sivera as she faced Captain Ryan Butler in their meeting chamber. "You could be Council agents testing our loyalty." Ryan smiled. "We bring more than words." He activated a holographic projector showing Earth's successful rebellion. "We bring hope and weapons." Within days, Vexor joined the growing resistance. Their people, with natural abilities to manipulate crystalline structures, proved invaluable in modifying Council technology. Meanwhile, Earth's diplomatic team prepared for direct confrontation. Led by negotiator Diane Miller, they studied Council laws and procedures, finding loopholes and contradictions. If they couldn't win through force alone, they would use the Council's own rules against them. The classification system itself violates the Council's founding charter, Diane explained to her team. Article 7 explicitly states that all sentient species have the right to self-determination. "But that article has been inactive for millennia," pointed out her assistant. "Inactive, but never repealed," Diane replied. "That's our opening." As the rebellion grew, not all Council species opposed it. The gaseous vril had long advocated for reform. The aquatic myrrh had questioned quarantine policies. Now these moderate factions gained influence as the hardliners' approach failed. Council military commanders prepared a massive fleet to crush the human rebellion. Warships gathered at strategic points, ready to recapture Earth and make an example of the troublesome humans. But they faced an unexpected problem: defections. Council ship crews, exposed to resistance messages, began questioning orders. Some simply disappeared with their vessels. Others openly joined the human cause. Admiral Zor of the Council Defense Force addressed his commanders with growing concern. "This infection of rebellion spreads faster than we can contain it," he admitted. "The humans have turned our own communication network against us." "Perhaps," suggested his second-in-command, "we should consider their demands." "Never," Zor replied. "If one species breaks free, the entire Council structure could collapse." What the Council feared most was happening. Across the galaxy, quarantined worlds began rising up. Species that had been controlled for generations saw an opportunity in Earth's example. The Vexari proved particularly valuable allies. Their crystalline technology combined with human ingenuity created weapons capable of neutralizing Council shields without destruction. The rebellion could disable rather than destroy, winning battles with minimal casualties. Earth established its headquarters on a captured Council station at the edge of the solar system. From there, Diane Miller prepared for the most important diplomatic mission in human history, addressing the full Council directly. "We don't seek to destroy the Council," she practiced in her quarters. "We seek to transform it, to return it to its original purpose: cooperation among equals." As her diplomatic ship prepared to depart for Sorelia Prime, intelligence arrived about Council hardliners. They planned a preemptive strike against Earth, a devastating attack to crush the rebellion's heart. The final confrontation was inevitable. But would it be won through words or weapons? The next few days would determine the fate not just of humanity, but of countless species across the galaxy. The Council had ruled for millennia, but they had never faced anything like humans before. The final confrontation began not with a battle but with a gathering. Thousands of ships converged on Sorelia Prime, the Council's capital world. Many wore Council markings, but their crews had joined the rebellion. Others came from Earth and allied worlds, a fleet unlike any the galaxy had seen before. At its center flew the Freedom, a former Council flagship now commanded by Admiral William Hayes. The massive vessel had been captured in the early days of the rebellion and repurposed as humanity's diplomatic carrier. The Council's defensive grid activated as the fleet approached. Weapon platforms locked on. Defense ships moved into formation. "They're preparing to fire," reported Lieutenant Emma Davidson at the tactical station. Admiral Hayes nodded calmly. "Hold position. Activate shields, but take no aggressive action." His orders spread through the fleet. Ships formed a protective sphere around the Freedom. But no weapons were charged. They waited in silence. On Sorelia Prime, the Council chamber erupted in chaos. "Destroy them now," demanded General Vrax. "This is our chance to end the rebellion in one strike, and kill thousands, including many of our own people," countered Ambassador Kelthan. "They've come under diplomatic colors. Our own laws forbid attacking them." High Counselor Trollvox raised her hands for silence. For 10,000 years, the Council had ruled the galaxy. Never had they faced such a crisis. "We will hear them," she decided finally. "Bring their representatives to the chamber." Admiral Hayes led the delegation himself. Walking through the grand corridors of the Council headquarters, humans and their allies faced the stares of species who had only ever seen them as specimens or subjects. The chamber was massive, with representatives from hundreds of worlds seated in rising tiers. Massive holographic displays showed the waiting fleet. Security forces lined the walls, weapons ready. Hayes stepped to the central podium, activating the translation system. "I come before you not as a conqueror, but as the voice of freedom," he began. "For too long, the Council has divided the galaxy into rulers and ruled, into species deemed worthy of respect and those considered too primitive to determine their own fate." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Many had never heard the Council's practices described so bluntly. "We have accessed your archives," Hayes continued, nodding to Dr. Lisa Garcia, who activated a projection. "For 30,000 years, the Council has protected developing worlds. In that time, 17 species have gone extinct under your care. 42 have been harvested to resource exhaustion." The projection showed planets before and after Council protection, vibrant worlds reduced to mining operations. "This was never the purpose of the Council," Hayes said. "Your own founding charter, written when the first 5 species formed this body, speaks of mutual aid and respect. The original charter appeared, translated into all Council languages. We do not seek to destroy the Council, but to reform it, to return it to its original purpose." High Counselor Trollvox leaned forward. "And if we refuse?" "Then the alternative is before you," Hayes replied, gesturing to the fleet displayed above. "Not just humans, but members of dozens of species who have joined our cause. Your empire of control is already crumbling." General Vrax stood. "This is treasonous. The humans have corrupted Council citizens with their rebellion. We must." He never finished. From the diplomatic gallery, representatives from 6 major Council worlds stood in support of Earth's position. "The Vril Collective supports reform," announced their ambassador, his gaseous form swirling with emotion. "As does the Mer Dominion," added another. One by one, Council members declared their positions. The balance shifted before their eyes. For 3 days, negotiations continued. The fleet remained in position, a constant reminder of what failure would mean. Finally, agreement was reached. The new Charter of Galactic Rights was signed in the ancient chamber. It abolished the classification system. All sentient species would be recognized as equals. Protected worlds would be given independence. Council resources would be used for mutual development, not exploitation. Admiral Hayes signed for Earth, As he pressed his thumb to the document, he thought of all those who had fought and died to reach this moment. "This isn't an ending," High Counselor Trollvox said as they completed the ceremony. "It is a beginning of a very different galaxy." On Earth, people celebrated as news of the tree arrived. Quarantine barriers around dozens of worlds dissolved. For the first time in Council history, all species could travel freely.